It's Monday night, and it's a brand new episode of Graphic Policy Television, or Radio, the show that mixes comics and politics. Doing a lot of videos. I'm right back for a little bit of a hiatus.
Have you been cheating on us with a different medium, Brett? You've been seeing a different medium behind our back? I see that now.
I was doing like a couple hours ago, so I'm sure that's on my mind, and it's like the same damn opening, so oh well. I'm back, and I'm not spending any time like into me, which is really fine and well deserved.
Yeah.
Joining me is my co-host Elana, who's held down the fort and done an awesome job while I'm absent. So thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah.
So how you doing?
It's great to be back. I know. I mean, I deliberately chose to not have guests today because I wanted to have a chance for us to sort of go over all the crazy shit that's been going down in the world of comics since we last had a chance to speak about it. And of course, this past week was New York Comic Con, so there was a lot of fresh news as well, irrespective of everything. And I'm really looking forward to doing this episode just with us, and I hope our listeners agree that it's nice to get a specially dedicated episode to the world of comics and geekdom and the latest comic news from New York Comic Con.
Yes. I unfortunately was not at New York Comic Con this year due to a conflicting thing, but I paid attention from a distance, which was interesting. And yeah, there seemed to be interesting from my perspective on the outside. It actually felt like this year was very comic based. Like a lot of the news was around comics. There was a whole bunch of announcements, a lot of news that were not supposed to be announcements, things that made news, and even kind of the things that like premiered, even if they were like television or movies, was still like based on comics. This wasn't a thing where, and the biggest thing I think that was non-comics was like maybe the Pacific Rim Uprising trailer. And that was about it. Like you had a Justice League trailer was probably the other big thing. That's comics related. You had a Tick trailer. That's comics related. You had Marvel, all kinds of weirdness going on, which made national news. DC announced like new books. You had Dynamite announced a whole bunch of new stuff. Dark Horse did some stuff. IDW, like it was a very comics focused show, which I think was interesting.
Yeah,
so, run us through it. You were on the ground yourself. So what was your perspective of the show? What stood out to you?
So I was on a mission to attend as many of the politically oriented panels as I possibly could. And there actually were more than I could humanly go to as a solo individual. So that's definitely saying something. And in years past, there'd been a real problem of them shoving any of the sort of diversity, feminist, people of color focused panels into tiny rooms, and they would fill up entirely and we couldn't all get in because somehow they had it in their heads that nobody actually cared about this stuff. Well, finally, they've put us in big enough rooms. I think there was only one diversity focused panel that like absolutely was too full and I couldn't get into. It was too full by a great quantity. Like I think 70 people could not get in, no joke, to the Black Heroes Matter panel, which is crazy amount of people to not be able to get in. But overall, they were putting those panels in bigger rooms, and I think recognizing that this is an area that there's more interest in, particularly at New York Comic Con. I have my critiques of the way some of those things were structured, though. I felt that, and I'm going to be writing about this in a piece very soon, that a lot of the ways these sort of diversity-focused panels were broken up was kind of repetitive. You would not only see a lot of the same people in the same panels, and it's one thing if it's like a celebrity person, I get why you would have Gail Simone on like 8 different panels about women, that's okay. But I'm talking about folks who aren't necessarily really names being on multiple panels, and then the individual sort of tagline or subject matter for some of those panels is pretty much the same as some others. Now, if someone's going to the con and they're trying to go to a wide variety of panels in general, and maybe they only make it to one LGBTQ panel, and they choose one on Saturday because they can't make the one Friday, then I guess maybe that works for them. I mean, maybe the way I'm consuming the conference as someone who's trying to go to all of those is unusual and like kind of leaving me in a more repetitive place. But I definitely heard the same damn thing from the stage a few different times. Some of them could also benefit from better moderation, but that's a problem, not just in diversity. That's just a problem across the board for anybody who's not really an experienced moderator. Moderation really is a skill. One of the things that I was really happy to see is there was a lot of panels about Jack Kirby 100. There was at least one Kirby panel a day. You know, Marvel had its, IDW had its, because my IDW was releasing some big, gorgeous Kirby artist editions that I really want to have.
Had the money. Yeah.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Freaking
so expensive,
gorgeous.
but so beautiful.
But I feel like every publisher had their own Kirby Day panel, and then the last one was hosted by the Bowery Boys, which is a really wonderful New York history podcast that I highly endorse. That one had the Jack Kirby Museum staff on it, which was good to get the museum perspective. But one thing I definitely want to shout out is there was literally, in all of those panels that I saw, there was only one person ever on the stage who was not a white man over the age of 40. And that was on the panel that Marvel organized. They had Meg Downey, who has a really good podcast herself called Boy Problems. Meg was the moderator, and she did a great job, and she's a young woman. And it was just like, oh, there's one of us. And I think a lesson for the con and for con schedulers and planners could be that, you know, that there's, quote, diverse, quote, people who can do things other than just be on a diversity-focused panel, and that there are plenty of different kinds of people with things to say about Silver Age comics and Bronze Age comics and other different kinds of topics. And I think that was missing a little bit from how they thought about these panels.
Yeah, but I mean,
but I had a lot of fun.
Marvel threw some like diversity into it, like, you know, someone that wasn't a white dude. So,
but it's sort of like it's a woman. I mean, and also being young was cool, right? But like, it was like you have located a young woman. Like, that was it. I would also just say for any other Kirby heads, like the panel ended with Tom Brevoort basically out of nowhere trying to justify the publisher's treatment of Kirby by saying that, you know, Kirby's daughter had a pony and everything, basically arguing that Jack Kirby didn't die poor. And I'm like,
I didn't know that's where that came from.
Poor, but like, why are you? That doesn't defend what you guys did. Him not being poor is not an adequate recompense for him building all of the IP that made you guys millionaires. And it was just really pulled out of nowhere that line of self-defense. And I think a lot of people in the audience didn't quite pick up that that's why he was drifting into that dialogue. But that was pretty offensive and just really out of left field.
What was the lead up to that?
Like, it was totally nothing.
Even like germane what he was talking about, or just like go off on a tangent? That's bizarre.
I think it was people talking about like things Kirby did later in his life, and that's when he started babbling about it.
That's weird. That's really weird. Yeah, Brevoort is one that definitely needs training. We've talked about it a bunch of staff needs training. He's one that absolutely needs training. Yeah. On the other side, though, Mark Evanier, I mentioned to him a blog that's a friend of the show called Kirby Without Words, where she has, where the artist has removed Stan's words from Kirby's art to let you see the art, and you can frequently see Sue Storm saving the day and Ms. Marvel saving the day. I'm sorry, and Marvel Girl saving the day. Even though with Kirby, with Stanley's text over it, they are made into damsels in distress. I asked Evanier, who was Jack Kirby's assistant when he was younger, and also his biographer, really,
what he thought about that, and Mark knew about it and like applauded it basically. So
that's what I did not know that he worked with Kirby. It's actually really cool.
Oh yeah, totally. That's why he gets to be like the Kirby guy.
Interesting.
But yeah, like he approved and definitely thinks that there's merit to taking the words away and agrees with that. Yeah, without the voiceover narration, Kirby's art is a lot more feminist than it is once Stan Lee writes in 1,000,001 Reasons Why it's actually Reed Richards saving the day. So that was interesting.
Isn't that like the big thing of the Marvel method was kind of come up with the general like beats as to what the story was. Kirby would go and do the art and actually like lay out the pacing of the story, and then would go over and do the actual words at that point.
But it's really a shame that like Stan couldn't like look at the art and interpret that what he was witnessing were women being heroes. That was so beyond his capability to understand. But
so my point being would be more is like it's really like without the words is really the more like pure story. Yeah, I mean that's kind of brought that up. Yeah, it's interesting. That's really fascinating to see someone today go back and rewrite some of those stories. Someone that's more keyed in.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's. There have been experiments with that as well, but I honestly think that the work stands on its own merits once you get rid of Stan Lee, like making everything sexist when it's not. But enough about that. I heard Walter Simonson was really fabulous on a panel that he was on. John Byrne was there, and apparently on his best behavior, which is very confusing for me. Noted homophobe John Byrne / amazing artist John Byrne, innovator of the X-Men.
Yeah.
Speaking of X-Men, I was able to go to a live taping of Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, in which the guests were Chris Claremont and Louise Simonson. Now, I'm so
jealous of that. That looked awesome.
Yeah. Had it just been a live taping of Jay and Miles Explain the X-Men, Dianu, but there were also Chris Claremont and Louise Simonson. So it was even more than enough. It was the Dianu of Comic-Con panels. Please excuse my Jewish humor. Louise Simonson is a fabulous panelist. I think she would be an excellent documentary subject. For those who don't know, Louise Simonson was Chris Claremont of X-Men's fame's editor, and then she went on to write some of the X-Men books like New Mutants, and was, really critically acclaimed. Really just one of the biggest figures of 1980s, late 70s, Marvel comics that we all kind of know and love. And she really should have her own documentary because she's really good at talking about the history and sharing stories in a way that not everyone is. One of the cool things she said is that at one point, Chris Claremont went to her and was basically saying, like, I'm all out of stories. I don't even know what I'm going to tell next. And so she reminded him of some loose plot threads he'd left around, and he was like, oh, right, yeah, okay, thanks, bye. And he, ran off and, did something amazing straight after that. So it really shows you the role that editors play in helping, to keep stories on track, and also the role that she played in, really building the X-Men's universe. But also just, if Chris Claremont can say one day that he's afraid that he ran out of stories and he gets back on the horse, that's sort of a nice little inspirational story for all creators, right? So.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, yes. Yeah.
She's awesome to see at conventions, too. She's usually there with Walt Simonson around, and they both, draw tons of people, which is awesome to see. I think that was one of my fun things at Baltimore one year was meeting them both.
Real heroes of...
Well, yeah. And these are really two, amazing creators, and, I actually think she would be, she would be an amazing documentary to sit down and talk to her.
She's better at talking about X-Men and stuff than Chris is, at least this time around. He was a little bit painful, actually, in some points to watch, which is not the vibe I had from the podcast interview of him I'd heard before with Jay and Miles. I felt like maybe he was having a tough time or something. He was not. He was a challenging guest. And Jay and Miles did a fabulous job, and I definitely look forward to other folks listening to it so we can all discuss. Important takeaways include that...
Was he just tired?
No, I don't know.
Or he's just off?
Cranky, I guess, confused.
Okay.
But the important thing to learn... It wasn't
his best. I'm like, I don't know what you meant by that.
Yeah.
Off and not entertaining, or...
No.
Okay.
I mean, a little bit painful at points. But I will say exciting news to share is that he, like myself, is a Logan Jean shipper. So I feel validated. And, of course, the last time we heard Chris Claremont speak at something, he said that he had wanted Rachel Gray and Kitty Pryde to be a couple when she was grown up. So basically validated all of our queer X-Men headcanons. Thank you, Chris Claremont. And yeah, like one of my only like straight couples that I'm emotionally invested in any way. So I feel like I had a bit of a fandom triumph in that. But moving along from talking about the old history stuff, I would actually, oh, by the way, the stuff for Batman the Animated Series 25th anniversary was just a huge celebration.
Yes.
I mean, well, you know what I realized is I grew up watching the mediocre production values of the X-Men cartoon and the original X-Men cartoon, for those who don't know how old I am, and reading X-Men comics and watching the beautiful production values of Batman the Animated Series, and never occurred to me to read a Batman comic. Like, it didn't even occur to me that that was a thing you could do. So, interesting little realization I had. But yeah, definitely the fandom around that. Mm-hmm.
So speaking of the X-Men animated, did you ever watch the original pilot?
No, but I heard it was
like the Asteroid M. Okay. Yeah, because there was like that was years before even that came out the series, and it's one of those like I don't know, I know it's a real thing, but there's so few people I've ever talked to that were like, oh yeah, I've totally seen that. So it's one of those where I'm not totally convinced I've made it up in my mind.
In your mind, right? Oh, interesting. No, I believe it's real. Probably. I feel like I've heard legends of such a thing.
It is.
Okay.
It's called Asteroid M or something like that. But it's if you can find it, interesting, because comparing that to like the main series, it's an interesting episode.
Cool.
I'm gonna see if I can find it. We'll see if we can share it around.
Nice. One of the big pieces of news I felt coming out of Con was that Image Comics has picked up Bingo Love by T. Franklin and Jen St. Ange, and we're pretty sure that's the first comic by a black woman that Image has ever put out. Sweet Lord, how sad is that?
No, maybe, possibly.
And props to T. Franklin for like saying that in herself and not like covering for them, basically, right?
Yeah.
So for those who don't know, Bingo Love was a Kickstarter, a hugely successful Kickstarter. It's a romance comic that's a romance between two black women who fall in love in the 60s, are separated by their families because it's like back in the day, and then find each other playing bingo when they're senior citizens. It looks very cute, and it's definitely the kind of story that you just don't see much of. The fact that it raised tons of money online shows that there's a real audience for that, and doesn't surprise me at all. There's lots of people who are looking for queer romance stories, and there you have one. And I give Image less credit for choosing it because she'd already raised all the goddamn money.
Yeah,
so choosing to publish
that's what
Bingo
a lot of
Love
publishers are doing now. Yeah,
but it's a very easy choice for them. There is no risk whatsoever on their part to pick up the book. I am super excited and proud, for the creative team, and I want to give them massive respect. But I have to still look askance at Image because basically the women who made this comic did all the damn work already. There's no risk on Image's part. Image is just going to collect accolades for diversity when they really didn't do shit to make the diversity happen. This comic was going to come to press and come out to the public regardless, so yeah. Yeah,
that seems to be a big thing with the comic industry now, at least indie, is so few are taking risk and are just picking stuff up from Kickstarter that has already been approved or, already been, done and all set and production is done. So at that point, like, no cost in it. In theory, the creators have been paid. Kickstarter, in theory. The publishing, at least for the first printing, has been done to at least the Kickstarter people, and possibly maybe some overrun depending on how they did it. So yeah, I mean, it's basically the publishers are just picking up stuff that is and just becoming a. I mean, it's the same. Yeah, I mean, they're just really becoming a distributor, like a distribution arm. They're not actually publishing shit.
And and it's just tiresome. I would say on terms of cool things from publishers, Lion Forge just hired Desiree Rodriguez to be full-time assistant editor and hired 3 other women to work for them, particularly scouting stuff from webcomics. And I'm like, yay, forward thinking, good job. So that's good news. I really think Desiree, who has been a guest on the show, is one of those people who, when I talk to her, I just really think like the future of comics. And she was fabulous on all the panels that she was on as well. Speaking of, one of the really great diversity panels they had this year, which is the first time they'd ever done it, was called Invisible Latinx in Comics. And that panel had, oh my gosh, the guy who created La Boricuen on it, and Desiree was on it, and then a whole slew of like different Latinx, and particularly Afro-Latinx people in the comics industry talking, and mostly like folks on the indie side of things. That panel was really fabulous, and I realized when I was watching it, it was the very first time I'd ever heard anybody speak Spanish from the stage at Comic-Con. And when you go to Comic-Con in New York is like super diverse.
Yes.
I'm curious what the demographics exactly are, but there's tons of people from all different racial groups and ethnic groups. And, you know, like the writer of Borinquen kind of slips in and out of Spanish a bit, and I speak Spanish, so like to me it's just sort of like easy and charming. But I think it's important for people who don't speak in Spanish really to also sort of be exposed to that, because that's what it's like for folks who don't speak English, you know. You kind of slide in and out of what you can and can't understand. And I think that was an important experience to have from the stage. But, Gaby Rivera, who's writing America for Marvel. Gaby Rivera is an amazing speaker. She should be coming on the show. And she just knocked my socks off so many times with shit she said. Just amazing. So I think that'll be fabulous when she comes on. She was on that panel as well.
Yeah, I mean, I caught a little bit of at least of what pictures from that panel, and it seemed like a hell of a lineup. I can't think of the name. The creator of I'm just going to butcher the name.
Boricuen.
He was on I think Vice or something. Like there was a segment on where they covered. It was just really cool to see him outside of comic press getting. I mean, he actually gets a lot of non-comic press coverage for the character.
He really pitched.
It was pretty solid. Yeah.
Well, I also didn't really quite know where he came from, but he like worked for Run DMC. He worked for Gerald McDaniel's comic line. Is sort of his own background on that.
I thought he was Marvel at one point too.
No, he did a story for Marvel.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a Marvel
definitely
connection. So at least I was right on that.
But he's very dismissive of the big publishers. Very, very clearly so. I wished I could have gone to the IDW launch of Black Crown, which is the new Shelley Bond.
Yes.
That did get live covered from Comics Beat, so folks can go check that out there. But that was something I was sad to miss.
Yeah, I mean that was maybe like it was on the radar, but it seemed like they're building some good buzz for it launching next week.
Good
the first issue
talent,
officially
comes
comes
out.
I
mean, good talent.
Yeah, I mean
put on those
that
books.
Burger Books, like all that seems to be pretty solid. At least talent to what they're bringing together.
Lots of really smart women, frankly, is what it looks like to me, and it's about time. Speaking of smart women, I'm excited that we also heard friend of the show, writer Mags Visaggio, is now going to be writing Element Girl for, I was going to say Vertigo, but it's not called Vertigo anymore, for Young Animal, which is a perfect fit for her.
Yes. I mean, she was part of the DC writer talent group, so that's
part of the writers
awesome.
group. But also, she's such like a Mark Waid student of. I mean, Gerard Way student of. Like, she's somebody who grew up listening to his music. Like, she comes from that. So it's pretty cool for her to be in that space. And the artist, I forgot his name, looked really good. So that seems like a good move on DC's part. Looking forward to that. I didn't see any of the Doomsday Clock Michigas. I'm not super, I really don't care, basically.
I'm looking forward to it, but I'm a sucker for that stuff, so.
Well,
I'm not judging until I read it.
Yeah. One thing I'm missing that maybe some listener can help. I don't freaking know. But the DC, one of the main DC panels did open up with a a sing-along that was like an anti-Trump spoof of something. I don't know. What was the fucking context? What is going on?
It was Mad Magazine. Yeah, so Mad Magazine it's Mad, like Mad freaking rules, and they don't give a shit. And of course, they're going to have tons of fun with Trump and lay into him. So it was like Mad, I want to say 65th anniversary panel or something like that. And before it started, they had like a sing-along basically of Trump sucking. I forgot. I think you sent it to me, right? Like the images of it, maybe.
No.
What else?
Yes, I did. I did. Yes, I did. I shared images, but I couldn't figure out what the heck was going on.
Yeah. So it was the Mad Magazine panel. I mean, Mad is owned by DC, or not owned by DC, but it's owned by Warner Brothers and kind of part of their printing arm. Publishing. I would say like Mad and DC are kind of like sister companies. Like I don't think DC is actually in charge of Mad at all. I could be wrong. It kind of is, but it isn't at the time. Like I don't quite know how that works, but yeah, that was totally Mad Magazine, and it's awesome. Like props to them. They've been laying into them, and it's been great to see.
Yeah, that's like what their role in society is, right?
Yeah, that's what their job is.
They're satirists.
Yeah, I mean, anyone in charge, they should go with it. But yeah.
Yes, exactly. Speaking of things that should be satire, but in this case aren't, boy, did Marvel make some bad news for itself at New York Comic Con. And I don't just mean Marvel's ongoing problems with not having enough diverse creative talent on the team. I'm talking about a particular fiasco. No, not Secret Wars, something else.
Fascinating with them. Yeah, so it started off with the retailer panel. So for those who don't know, before some of the conventions, not all the conventions, some of them, they have like gatherings for retailers, and the publishers like give presentations as what folks can expect and what's going on and what's coming up. And get some feedback. And Marvel went on, and there's this nice Gamergate-esque shitstorm, shitheels, shitlords, edgelords, shitlords, whatever, assholes who kind of whipping up anti-Marvel sentiment, and some is and so at the end of this retail panel, they brought up some questions, and some of the questions were were good. So, like the feedback was good. Like someone said, "Why do you put numbers on one shots?" Which to me, completely legit.
Yeah.
Whatever. Secret Wars Uprising shouldn't have a number 1 after it unless there's going to be a 2, and there's not, or whatever the hell, or Omega, or whatever it is. So they took that back. That's really good. That's actually makes sense. So after all the basically what was good feedback, a retailer got up, and so far it seems everyone's protecting this retailer. I don't know why. No one has named the name.
You say that. I mean, I know from one of the folks who was in the room, at least on my end, he's like, I can't tell who it is because all of these white dudes look the same, basically. Like, I'm sure that within the retailer community. Right, yeah. No, exactly. Like there must be people in that room who know who he is, but the reporter who I know who was in the room did not, because he's like, he looks like everybody else. It's, you know what I mean? Like It's not. So yeah. I do think that there are somebody at Marvel or some retailers who have just been in the business for a long time should know and recognize who that was.
Yes. So they got up and basically they railed against Marvel with their SJW and diversity and fuck the homos and what else did they say?
I'm trying to think of the noteworthy. Like I think it's important to say. It's one thing to say damn SJWs. Like that's stupid and bullshit. This man.
Oh no, it's where this asshole went.
He said homo. He said homo, which means he might as well have said the N-word. Like he literally might as well have said that, and he didn't. But like. I
think he actually said, I can't sell a comic where Iceman kisses a dude.
Yeah, but he also said homo.
One of the specifics?
He said homo. And he like literally straight up said racist shit. And here's the thing.
Yes.
He felt comfortable saying it in that room. Now, clearly tons of people in the room were horrified. But the fact that he assumed that kind of talk would be acceptable. And then Marvel's response was basically a both sides do it kind of response. They were like, well, look, Thor used to be a frog, so change is normal. And I'm like, that's not what he's talking about. Like,
no, it's not.
But it's not what he's talking about. Like, they need to respond to what he's actually talking about. Now, I'll cut them some slack for not having the best response because it is shocking and you get caught off guard. But the fact that they, like, just didn't, as time progressed, develop a better way to respond to this.
But they
clearly
did bring up James Rhodes, I believe, which is a better example. They brought up the Thor's a frog, and I thought I was not there, so I'm going off of whatever other reporting was in. I believe Marvel brought up Jim Rhodes taking over for Tony Stark, which is actually a valid, I think, a fuck you response to that, because it's not anything new. It's been done before and been done a bunch. So I believe that was actually mentioned. I could be wrong, but to me, that's a bit valid than the Thor's a frog response.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I definitely think saying, like, look, we've done this before. Why are you guys being such psycho-racists right now? Is because you're being drummed up about it by agitators, which is absolutely true and something which is happening. But anyway, so first that happens. And then some of us notice on Twitter that Marvel has tweeted out that it's looking forward to doing a special event with Northrop Grumman at its retailer booth on Saturday at 3 p.m. Now, would you like to tell the class a little bit about who Northrop Grumman is?
Well, there's also, so even before that, and I'm going to give him props because I want to at least show the devolution of things for Marvel during this convention. Before even the retailer, there was the Punisher. They pulled the Punisher from New York, Netflix and Punisher, which was good.
Yeah, well, just for those who don't know, they were supposed to be doing a Punisher panel. They decided not to do it in light of the recent mass shooting. Somebody, I wish I could recall who pointed out that if they were confident that the show handled gun violence responsibly in what the show did, then they might not have felt the need to cancel it because they could have made it be about, like, you know, we have a show that's talking about how gun violence is unacceptable and we'll address it seriously and we think this is time, whatever. But no, they seem to realize what I suspect, which is that the show actually will handle, gun violence irresponsibly, and that's why they didn't have the panel at that time.
And someone else brought up the thing is now you've also associated it with Las Vegas, like, genius move.
Yeah. And, the other thing
genius
is, like,
as in a bad, like, way to go.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
You and I will do an episode soonish about the iconography of the Punisher, but so stay tuned for that, guys, because the entire Punisher thing is a right-wing meme waiting to expand and grow. So, anyhow, so they canceled that panel.
Northrop Grumman.
Yeah.
Yeah, so flash forward to Saturday, and I'm kicking myself because going through my feed, I saw the announcement of the comic, and I didn't bother looking at it just because I was rushed. So Marvel has a thing called Custom Editions, and Custom Editions is a separate arm of Marvel. It's not their normal editorial. There's a few people that are in charge of it, and it's not their normal editorial group. And their entire thing is to go out and work with companies or organizations or nonprofits or whatever to create custom comics around certain situations. So in the past, they worked with a pharmaceutical company about IBD medicine, which is good and bad at the same time because pharmaceuticals I don't think should be advertising, but it's another thing. They've worked with like Visa, again, Visa, MasterCards and all that, or credit cards from Marvel is shady as fuck. But this was about educating over fiscal responsibility. They've done stuff with like citrus growers, I think. Like it's run all over the place. So the idea was they were going to work with Northrop Grumman over some comic STEM. However, it's Northrop Grumman who is a fucking evil corporation. We're talking billions in fines, fleecing the government, selling materials to foreign governments they shouldn't, propping up dictatorships, training military. They literally have their own mercenary force. Basically, everything they touch turns to shit. And they are the evil. They are Roxxon. They are Marvel's Roxxon.
They are Roxxon. Is
the best way, but
yes,
right. And so they went for this deal, and of course, everyone ate it, not because it was about STEM, which I saw a couple of idiots saying that's the reason people went insane. The reason is because Northrop Grumman is an evil corporation, and Marvel, who should be about progressive and doing good and stuff like that, should be teaming up with Northrop Grumman. So all hell broke loose.
It's like they didn't watch Iron Man. Like, it's like,
yeah, exactly.
Guys, you didn't see Iron Man? No, it's a pretty popular movie.
Yeah. And that's what I said to someone. I was like, even Tony Stark has basically said no to selling weapons. So it's like they didn't learn their lessons from their own stuff. So everyone went nuts online, which was totally legit, and basically was like, what the hell are you thinking? So Marvel absolutely fumbled on what even they were discussing, because maybe if they said, hey, this is about STEM, maybe it would have gone over better, but it still wasn't enough because it's Northrop Grumman. And
it's
like the images,
I mean, the work itself was like laughably bad, like super
all
stereotypical.
those custom inks are. All the custom inks are horrible. And not to demean the people working on it, they work hard, but like it's not. They feel like, you know how like offshoots and miniseries of big events never quite all quality. That's custom ink, except lower it a few levels as far as quality, but your custom editions. So they pulled it, which was good, and pulled it from the Marvel Unlimited, which was already Northrop Grumman pulled their stuff, and it was gone. And the few images that were there, even if it was a STEM comic, there was like these really disturbing images. Like half of it would have been like Avengers Tower, and then the other half was Northrop Grumman's headquarters, and was like, come in with us. And it was clearly really shitty propaganda to make it think that, hey, you should go work and, learn STEM, and then you go work for an arms manufacturer.
I mean, what's really insane, oh man, I wish I recalled who put this on Twitter. If Marvel actually wanted to promote young people getting interested in STEM, they could have supported the Unstoppable Wasp comic, which was literally designed to get little girls excited about science, because it stars a little girl scientist and features her going on adventures with female scientists of various ages. That was like literally what this whole comic was supposed to do, and it was very adorable and funny. And they canceled it. So, I mean, look, I don't think having Marvel do sponsored comics in and of itself is a terrible thing, but like, look at who your partners are, right?
Yep.
I mean, good God. And also make it very, very clear that what you're making is an advertisement, so that people could not possibly like think it was actual content. But the idea that they were doing this because they want to encourage young people to go into STEM while they're actually busy canceling comics that are designed to help young people go into STEM, it's about money. Just say it's about money. You wanted that arms dealer money, so you took the arms dealer money. That's
yes.
Don't lie to me. Anyhow, so Twitter responded very, very with a quickness to the insanity. There was lots of tweets all over the hashtag. There was Geek Press, mainstream press. Brett on Graphic Policy wrote one of the earliest stories that actually explained the problem with Northrop Grumman. Thank you, Brett. And then Marvel canceled it.
Yep. Which might make it a very valuable comic if you can find it.
Oh my God! I don't know.
The first thing I'm thinking, I'm like, I want a copy. It's going to be worth tons of money. I can eBay that shit.
Oh my gosh! Sell it to Destro. Destro is like finally a comic that I can get behind.
But like, so so for the custom editions, for those who don't like, they've worked with. I got it in front of me. They've worked with Lexus in the past, which isn't a horrible thing. Bandai Namco for something. Pirates Booty, which I'm assuming is the food thing.
The snack food. Listen, like with the Hostess fruit pies ads of DC Comics, yes.
Yeah, and that was supposedly about unhealthy snacks. We have Captain Citrus, which I'm not even going to go in. Something with LeBron James. Blue Ear, which was, I know they did, that was a great comic about a kid who actually had hearing issues and like wrote to Marvel, and they're like, we're going to do this character for you and do something around people with hearing issues and all that. Like, awesome. They did their one that was with a nonprofit, I think, that was like anti-bullying, which is really good. Elks Club, which I don't know much about the Elks Club, so I have no opinion on it.
They're like a weird civic organization that's like a VFW, but for non-VFW people. I would describe them as being value neutral. So go for it. You know what I mean? Just don't work with fucking arms dealers.
Yeah, so Make-A-Wish, they did one, which is good. Visa, I still think that one bothers me for some reason. And then they did something with NASA, which I thought was like a STEM thing with that one. So I don't know why. I know they did like a patch with the ISS International with like Rocket and Groot and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. Yeah, who knows? But yeah, and so they've done cool stuff, and they've done like worthy stuff, and you know, it's a great idea. It's just they need someone to think through who the hell they're partnering with all this. Like,
well, certainly supporting Northrop Grumman is very much in line with like the head of Disney's political beliefs, right? But I guess they don't understand that like people have a megaphone and can respond to what they say and do.
I have no doubt whoever the one that pulled the trigger on it, and that word is being used intentionally. That phrase is used intentionally. It basically was like Northrop Grumman came to him and said, "Hey, we're going to give you all this money," and that person said, "Sweet, I'm going to meet everything that I have this quarter with this like one deal," and that's all they were seeing. And like, I'm going to meet my goals and all that, and awesome. And that was about it. And it didn't go anywhere else because Joe Quesada during the Cup of Joe panel, someone asked him about it, and he was like, I didn't know about it until all hell broke loose. So clearly, normal Marvel editorial is out of the loop when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, I could believe that. Yeah, I can believe that. But I want to talk about the fan response. So the fan response was like fast, loud, vocal, and we are the reason the thing got canceled. Like, because folks like us spoke out and made fun of it. That's why. I think fandom needs to realize that we have those kinds of powers, that we're even better able to wield that power when we are organized. And in these crisis moments like that, organizing doesn't necessarily have to be required, partially because the viral nature of it being during New York Comic Con when everybody's on Twitter. But so look at this example of the kind of thing we can do if we put ourselves to it and to actually organize ourselves. To have networks for notifying each other when shit's going down, have frameworks for developing petitions and stuff like that. Speaking of petitions, oh my gosh, we want to talk about that, Brett?
What, the one we did?
Yeah, the one we did.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to say something I shouldn't, so I kind of want to punt on it.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
No, yeah, it's...
Petitions, they're a thing. People in comics can do them. You should talk to us sometime. Petitions.
They can help people. Yes. Petitions are a good thing, especially if you know who to target and what to do. Petitions are a good thing. Retweets, all that can be helpful. Petitions are a good thing. Just going to leave it at that.
Indeed. So, so that was the biggest activism moment at New York Comic Con, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that wound up being like a huge story. I mean, I know I saw all of that well past the comic press in some mainstream too. So it really got out there, and I'm wondering, like, Marvel had some announcements, but all that stuff basically just overpowered their announcements and drowned it out. I mean, basically Marvel's narrative got away from them, and that seems to be a constant issue that they're having.
Yeah, maybe they should hire people who are better at their job. I don't know.
People who are able to control the narrative a little better.
There was a panel actually with like creators like talking about how to get hired, and they basically were like, "We hire from within our network," and I'm like, "Yep, it shows."
Yeah,
it shows.
Well, at least they're being honest about it.
Yeah, that's true. They're not like, if you work very hard and work really hard, someday you just might be able to know. They're like, if we don't know you, you don't count. Hilarity. Did Marvel make any announcements?
So they are doing a Black Panther prequel series. That's going to be basically the origin of Black Panther and him actually, I think, taking control of Wakanda, which should be timed for the movie. Exactly the stuff they should be doing. So that's really, really good. They announced a Legion
Is that the one that
is
that the one that Evan Narcisse is writing, or?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's cool. He's an African American, like pop culture critic.
Yeah, but even that they fucked up on because the announcement was done on the site he writes for, which is ethically questionable.
Oh, because they gave them the scoop on it.
Yeah. That's very ethically questionable.
Interesting.
Yep. Yeah. We're going to leave it at that.
Okay.
Let's go with the press release link to the site the person writes for, which is not kosher to do.
So,
yeah.
Anyhow, so that was again,
and it's this minor details that they seem to keep on fucking up over and over and over again.
Yeah. Was there anything else that was announced?
Yeah, so they did so for Marvel, they also announced the Legion series, again, with the television show. That's, again, what they should be doing. And then they're doing a Rogue and Gambit miniseries, which...
Yes. Kelly Thompson is the writer, which is pretty much what it takes to make me actually think this could be good. Like, if I had to choose someone to write it, Kelly Thompson would be near the top of that damn list. So that's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, it should be a good one.
I think
I'm
somebody
just
actually
fascinated
tweeted,
that it's coming out.
I do not want this comic. Well, I guess I'd read it if it was from Kelly Thompson. And then somebody replied 3 hours later, it's Kelly Thompson. And they were like, oh, okay. So definitely there's a lot of folks who think that she's the writer that's the right person to a Gambit and Rogue comic.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested at the timing of it because there's nothing that I know of January-wise that involves Gambit and Rogue. It's just why is this coming out? Like they're working on a Gambit film. Who knows if it's ever going to happen? So it just seems a weird thing that maybe you'd want to time it for that. And they've got it on television, so I'm fully expecting Lorna Dane to be somewhere. So I was expecting some Lorna Dane announcement, but again, not really anything. So weird stuff. But the Legion one is exactly what they should be. It's tied into the comic series. You got the television series. It's a good thing where people can go who like the television series can go read a comic.
Cool. Assuming they advertise to them, which, you never know.
Yeah.
Maybe they will.
But, hey, if you listen to these retailers, according to these retailers, they're getting tons of people coming into their shops asking where the hell these comics are.
That's right.
I'm calling bullshit on that, but, whatever.
And then angry somehow. But, yeah.
And then they leave angry not buying anything.
Not buying a gosh darn thing.
Nope, because trades don't exist.
No, trades don't exist. Sorry, guys, we can't turn off the sarcasm. It's just not possible.
Not for those asshats.
No. What else got announced?
DC had a lot of announcements. So they announced so the Dark Matter line of comics is now called the New Age of Heroes, I think it is. So it's everything that's going to out of Dark Knight's Metal, which is pretty awesome. I'm loving that series so far. So the whole thing's going to be called now New Age of Heroes. They're actually doing with new characters. They're really trying some new directions and all that, which should be really interesting. Steve Orlando's got a new series called The Unexpected, and it was announced. And then Justin Jordan has got another series. I forgot, is something Brimstone.
Oh, yeah, Steve Orlando. The Unexpected. Is that the one where they're having him write some D-list heroes, basically? Yeah. It seems that's totally something I want. I know that writers, they always want to do I am so much more likely to be excited about a writer who I like writing some random ass D-list heroes. It's totally in my jam. I'm super happy for Steve that he's doing Justice League of America, but what I'm more excited about is the D-list. That's just me.
And he's going to be really good at that. I think something that he excels in is being able to prop up D-list characters. So I'm really, really looking forward to it. So Justin Jordan has one. It's something Brimstone. I forgot what the specific is. I'm trying to think what else. They've announced Milestone is coming back, and there's I think 3 or 4 series to start.
Yes, they have got
Earth.
Talon is all men.
One woman, I thought.
Yep. Nope.
You
she
sure?
was like
I thought there was.
Yeah.
Or maybe she's an artist.
Yeah, I think that's the situation. Karama, aka the girl, basically told Guinness Cowan, like, you guys have to have a woman on this book because there's going to be a women team book that's coming out. So
yeah,
we shall.
It's Randall.
See.
That's I'm assuming Alice Randall is a woman.
Yeah.
She's on Earth M. I'm guessing she's the artist. I don't really list who's the artist and who's the writer. It's Reginald Hudlin and Alice Randall. So I'm assuming Hudlin's writing it and she's doing the art, but I don't know.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, it seems like Hudlin is writing pretty much everything other than one series, which Greg Pak is writing.
Yeah. Those are some good dudes, but dudes nonetheless.
Oh, they're all talented. Yeah. They're all super talented. And I'm definitely want to check out and see what they do. It'd been nice to have maybe a couple women, especially a couple like women of color would have been nice.
Especially
think of
given
a couple.
Where is Aletha Martinez? But I say that a lot.
Theo Richardson would be fantastic.
Somebody announced. Yes, I was thinking about diversity. So I found out that Gaby Rivera is working on a Magical Girl series that has Latina characters. So Magical Girl series is like a genre like Sailor Moon, basically.
Yep.
The internet is pleased. That's not my jam, but that's the jam of so many people, so that's pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah,
but I don't know if that's
tapped out on those series.
Yeah, I know. I'm old, sorry, but like I don't know what the what the publisher is for that. It might actually be fiction. It might not be a comic.
Yeah, and that's a whole genre that took off. There was like 1 or 2 comics, and then it feels like everyone's doing their own version of it.
Well, Zodiac Star Force is Star Force is a really good comic book. It was Dark Horse, right?
Zodiac is Dark Horse.
Yeah, and they've kept that one going. They have like a new season on it.
Yep.
Definitely a lot of fun. I recommend
seems to do a lot of them. Yeah, he does a lot of them. Of course, has like 1 or 2 series that are very similar, but yeah, that became like a genre unto its own comics.
Oh, speaking of Boom, a new season of The Backstagers has been announced.
Oh, I missed that one. Awesome.
Yeah. So that's a comic with taking place at a boys' boarding school, and this is the not the drama club, but the stage crew that supports the drama club, and it has a lot of gay boy, teenager, in love storylines. Which is definitely something that is important to have, and it's written by James Tinian of the Fourth, and the artist is Ryan. I forgot his name, but it's by Queer Men. So that's cool.
Yes.
Glad to see that comic will be coming back.
Yeah, they. I'm not too surprised. I think the series had a pretty good run, and James Tinian has a really good, really solid like following, which is. Great to see. Like he rocks with a whole bunch of series. I know The Woods just wrapped his. He's got a whole bunch of Boom. So yeah, it's great to see more. He's a great creator and consistently entertaining.
He'll be coming on our show sometime this winter, by the way.
The definite.
I'm sorry? Yes.
Is that
I'm not giving you a definite
okay.
date. It's definite. It's happening. I am not giving you a definite date yet. Although what I can tell our listeners is definite happening, and we have a date for it, is we are going to be joined by Michael Fife, the creator of Capra, writer, artist, publisher of the artistic, surrealist version of Suicide Squad. I mean, basically, it's like an avant-gardist take on Suicide Squad while still being a comic. And he'll be joining us October 23rd. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. Let me get this calendar open.
I thought it was
October 23rd. Yes, October 23rd.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I've talked about Copra like so much. Have a subscription to it. Love it. So it should be a really fun discussion. He loves comics and he's just awesome being able to construct them and give his own twist to them. So, anything we can do to promote that series, so happy to do it. It's friggin' awesome. And if folks haven't been reading it, totally read it. There's, I think 4 volumes are out at this point. I don't think the 5th one is out yet. I could be wrong. Go pick it up. You won't be disappointed. It's still on best lists.
One of the things I've been hearing lots of good buzz from the con and just in general is there's a Star Wars book that's coming out that's in the new universe. Is it from a certain point of view? And I guess it's an anthology.
Wait, which one is it?
It's art and it's illustrated, but short stories. And it's called From a Certain Point of View. It's a Star Wars book. And that got really good, really big buzz. It's Penguin Random House is the publisher. It's got Kieran Gillen, who, as folks know, I'm obsessed with. He's been on the show. Check it out. Ben Acker.
The main Star Wars comic, which should be awesome.
Kelly Sue DeConnick, Matt Fraction. So, really talented folks. Mallory Ortberg. Yeah.
And it's a prose book?
It's a prose book with illustrations.
Interesting. Well, maybe I'll finally
and it's a fundraiser?
A prose book.
Oh, it's a fundraiser. Profits are donated to First Book, a leading nonprofit that provides new books, learning materials, and other essentials to educators and organizations serving children in need.
I heard of it. I'm going to have to check that out because that kind of sounds awesome.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, the Star Wars stuff, comic-wise, is friggin' awesome. So to see those folks all do a different, a prose should be really, really cool.
Yeah. I've never read the Extended Universe books, but I'm intrigued by this. Yeah,
I think check out Dr. Aphra. That one you might like.
Oh, no, I've read the comics. I've read the comics.
Okay.
Extended Universe, I mean, the novels that came out.
The novels? Yeah.
No, but I've read Kieran Gillen's stuff on it. I'm behind on Dr. Aphra, but I adored his Darth Vader comic. That was amazing.
Yes. The Vader stuff was amazing. And
the Star Wars special that Kelly Thompson did was really great, too.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about that with her when she joined us on the show a little while back.
Yeah, for all the that Marvel gets knocking out of the park for Star Wars line of comics.
I wonder if it has a separate editor.
I have no idea. I would think that Lucasfilm was just very hands-on with it, so it is much more I can't even imagine what the process is to get that stuff done.
I mean, I'm glad that Lucasfilms let them have a queer woman character, Dr. Aphra.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's a pretty big deal.
Huge deal. There's that. There's a couple other characters that I'm positive are, LGBT. There was one, I swear, that just came out, not in that term, where there's something about an LGBT character, but I don't remember which it is. But yeah, Aphra, I think, is the first, maybe? Definitely.
Yeah, Dr. Aphra.
Profile.
She's sort of like an evil Indiana Jones, I think. Well, not
that's the way
evil,
I describe it.
More like an amoral Indiana Jones character.
Yeah,
so definitely
she's
worth
Indiana
checking
Jones
that
might be okay working with the Nazis instead of punching them.
It depends. Yeah.
And sometimes she would punch them. It's all about what her being at that time. But yeah. Love that series. Really, really, really good. Entertaining.
And, we have the artist announced. Speaking of things Kieran Gillen writes, the artist for the 1920s Wictive special is going to be Aunt Cox, who folks, she's done a little bit of work at Marvel, a few backup stories or something stuff. She does gorgeous art. She's kind of from the studio that Steve Lieber runs out west, and she's got a very Art Nouveau style, and having her do 1920s issues is going to be a really cool fit. If folks haven't seen her, check out. Her name is spelled A-U-D, and then her last name is C-U-C-H, I want to say. A-U-D, and her last name is C-O-C-H, yes. I'm super excited to see her work there, and all of her stuff for Inktober has been really cool, too, so now's a good time to check out her art.
Yes. Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff lined up, so tons and tons to come. Anything else stand out for you about New York Comic Con?
No, I mean, I do think that they could really use some tighter curation of the panels, like being more prescriptive in some ways of making sure that there's diversity on panels that aren't just the diversity-focused panels. And, yeah, and some scheduling. Scheduling is really hard. I mean, I run a conference in my professional life, and I know how hard that can be, but yeah. Oh, gosh, speaking of things that were scheduled poorly, but I understand why, we had the very, very first Jewish-focused panel this time.
Let me guess, it on Saturday?
No, it wasn't. It was on Sunday. But it was at the same time as one of the African-American ones, which sort of played into the whole idea that people seem to forget that, like, you can be both, Jewish and black. But I totally understand that, you know, they had a limited schedule within which they could work because also it had been Sukkot. So Sunday was the only day the Jewish panel could have been, and they did it then. Hosted by three awesome women in geekdom. They have a podcast called Nice Jewish Fangirls, and it's perspectives from three modern Orthodox Jewish women. So that's definitely a different, you know, community that you don't really hear having their own space in geekdom quite as much. And one of the hosts, Michal, was on a really popular Game of Thrones podcast. So folks might recognize her from that. Yeah.
Is there any comic creators that are Orthodox that you can think of?
I don't think so.
Now you said that, I'm like thinking of this. I'm like, is there any that I even know of?
No, I really can't think of any. Like, there's I can't think of any comics creators who are Orthodox. Nope. And they didn't mention any geek fiction writers who are Orthodox either. They talked about Jewish writers for whom Jewish themes and ideas are significant in their work. They mentioned lots of folks like that, but I don't really know if any of them are Orthodox. So anyway, that was cool.
Yeah.
That was cool. Good
Quick
to see
search,
that.
nothing comes up. But yeah, no, that's actually really, really neat. Yeah, I've noticed there's been an uptick of a lot of Judaism and comics intersection. Seems to be like a hot topic and things being covered now, which is good because it's the history of comics. It really is the complete history of comics.
Yep.
So yeah, no, that's I wish I saw that. That would have been really, really cool to watch. Yeah, how was the crowds? The crowd seemed to be a big thing.
Terrible,
of debate.
daunting. Yep. I mean, there's been worse. It wasn't as bad as I feared it would be, but it's not fun. But it's been worse, I suppose. Artist Alley was pushed off in its own section because the building is getting redone, and there was not enough air conditioning in Artist Alley.
Yeah, I saw some photos that look like some pretty bad, some pretty nasty fire hazards.
It was really hot in that room. Not pleasant. I did notice, speaking of things in Artist Alley, however the booths got lined up, you had this row in which the booths were Frank Cho, like a couple people, different booths, I don't know who they were, and then two women who were like independent artists who both do size-positive pinup art, like feminist drawings of plus-size women being sexy. Guess who had significantly more people crowding around their table?
Oh, it's going to be the women.
It was the plus-size women artists who, like, literally I'd never heard of before. They have no name recognition of anything I'd heard of. Their work was really cute. I really liked it. So they weren't being appreciated for their name brand. They were there because people wanted what they were making. And poor Frank Cho sitting all by himself on the end of the table with his totally played out, stereotypical art that, like, he's basically trying to troll people with at this point.
at Baltimore, it was Phil Richardson, Greg Pak, Wade, Matt. Like they constantly were having people at their tables, like constantly. And Daryl McDaniel's little Run DNC action. He also had tons of people, which is understandable. But yeah, that was kind of fascinating to watch and who everyone was gravitating towards.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can't even get anywhere near Karen Gill and Jamie McKelvey's stuff. Like, they're massive hits. I feel like there was a serious, like, run-on pins on Jen Bartel's table. She makes beautiful enamel pins. And you pretty much had to get there early to get those from her, and she got a re-up, thankfully, so we were able to come and get things. But Jen Bartel makes gorgeous merch, and I just saw people carrying around posters from her everywhere. She must have sold a ton of stuff. I'm really happy for her. She's a really good artist.
Cool. I have to check her out next time.
She's done a couple issues of America that she just did, and she did a couple issues of Gem before.
No. Like, I know her art. I don't think I've ever seen a pin. I'd love to see what she does for, like, pins and stuff like that in the poster.
One of them says, "Dead men can't catcall." One of them says, "Mermaids against misogyny," and she's got, like, a big spiked mace. They're very cute. They're, like, angry and pink and feminist. It's very much her brand.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was at. There was a group at SPX that had a table, and when you bought stuff, it like went, depending on what you bought, it went to different charities, and I wound up buying one that some stickers, and the one said fuck your dead Confederate ancestor or something like that.
Yeah.
That line.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And I think it went to the SPLC. Yeah.
I didn't ask you about SPX.
It was good. Like,
Small
it's always
Press
amazing.
Expo.
Yeah. So Small Press Expo takes place in September. It's usually the week before Baltimore Comic Con, so it's an awesome 1-2 punch with that. SPX is always amazing. Like, the talent there is crazy. I was talking to some other things. They are folks there. People have made comments of how the whole convention seems to get like queerer and queerer every single year, in a good way. Yeah, and like this year it was like there was transgender individuals there at the actual like fans walking around and creators, and like it's just one of those that like this is comics. Like, anyone that says comic fans are transgender or women or whatever, people of color, like, go to Small Press Expo and fuck you. The talent there is amazing. The people are there. They spend money. It's packed. It's a great show. I picked some really interesting stuff of like a new publisher I didn't know about. I'm reading their 2 books that I picked up from them, so that will be up on the site soon. I still need to get some videos up. Some really cool things that I saw. The thing I like about the show is people are more experimental about the comics they produce. So there was one that I bought that looks like a pizza slice, and then you like fold it out to read the comic, and on one side is one story, and then I think the other side is like the same story from a different perspective, and it's just really creative in how it's laid out. There was another I snapped photos of that. It was, I think, 12 feet long or 20 feet long, some crazy length that's long near comic. And there's one that is gorgeous. It was $45 an issue, so I didn't buy it, but the outside of it was like, it wasn't leather, but it kind of was like that sort of thing, but underneath it was an image, and the image was like metal, and it changed colors depending on where you looked at it. So like super creative, really gorgeous, and I got video of that. Hopefully it actually caught the change of the coloring. That's really, really, really cool. So SBI, like, amazing talent, really cool stuff. I bought an original cover for a comic that came out. I bought a kid's book that's the history of hip hop, but it's one specific creator, and I forgot who it was. But it's like a kid's in this really cool art style that I love. A bunch of other like small comics, picked stuff up. It's always a great show. I highly recommend it to folks.
I also got to go to Geek Girl Con for the very first time out in Seattle.
Yes.
I believe I was the person who came from the farthest away that I encountered. No joke. Like, it really did not get folks from the East coming at all. But Geek Girl Con is fabulous. It's very family-oriented, tons of stuff for kids. It is not super comics heavy. Like, I think the only comics guest who was there was G. Willow Wilson. It really has stuff from games, TV fandom, role-playing games, video games, science kits, all kinds of stuff. Nice big Xena panel, all that. Like a cool panel for fans who love Star Trek, about what some of the problematic aspects of Star Trek are, like from a loving perspective of fandom, you know. But comics are just not really there. It's not really comics focused. And I think that's an interesting factor. Planned Parenthood had a really cool workshop there. You know, there was a number of different workshops on civic engagement. Definitely a very political conference, and very family oriented, completely unlike anything I'd been to, for real. And I think anybody from the West Coast, like, go. You should definitely go. The whole city of Seattle was totally all about it too. Like, the whole city was just, it was in the convention center. It doesn't use the whole convention center. It's like part of the convention center. Really cool cosplay. I definitely think for families it would be a can't miss. Really nice big game playing area for folks to try out new role playing games and new strategy games with each other in a supportive environment. And there were like a lot of panels that I wanted to go to. I couldn't even make it to them all because there were so many cool ones. But just like not comics focused. Because there isn't enough, I guess, that really understands young girls to be its audience.
Yeah, so the other is, I know the area is very heavy in games in general, like especially video games, but like Penny Arcade Expo is held there and all that, so it doesn't surprise me that it's more game focused based off of who's around there. But really kind of fascinating.
But there's a lot of people who make comics in Portland. Like, Portland is a big comics maker hub, and isn't there like a publisher based in Seattle even?
Yeah, and that's what I like. If you're doing a book that's aimed at women or girls, like, you should be sending your teams there. So that doesn't make a lot. Absolutely. That's a fail. Yeah. Fail. Yeah. Anything else to discuss? Nope.
That's really it. But yeah, definitely, folks, go to Geek Girl Con next year. I highly endorse it.
Cool. I've heard some good things. So that's one I might have to check out at some point. Excellent. Yeah. So I don't know if we've got anything specifically scheduled to next week, but if not, I'm
gone. I'm gone Monday. I would love to do an episode next week, but I can't do it Monday. So hopefully we'll be back with something awesome, a different day of the week.
Possibly, we'll see. I don't know.
And we'll definitely be back on the 23rd with Michael Feast to talk about Copra.
Yes, that will be awesome. I'm looking forward to that. I missed it at SPX this year, so I was bummed. But yeah, that should be really, really cool and a lot of fun. And yeah, since we haven't pretty much covered everything we wanted to discuss.
Covered it.
If you came in late, want to listen to it again, want to share it with your friends, this episode of Policy Radio will be up on iTunes and Stitcher in a couple hours, and then will be on our site and SoundCloud tomorrow. Our site being grabpolicy.com. You should go check out and get all the comic news, reviews, interviews, and more every single day. You can also follow us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all that graphic policy, keeping it consistent.
And I'm on Twitter.
Yep.
I'm on Twitter all the goddamn time on Twitter. Elana, ELANA _Brooklyn, like the city, Twitter, all the damn time. It's not okay. You can find me there. And I'll have a more in-depth piece about the politics of New York Comic Con coming up on Comics Beat very soon.
Yep. So, as always, thank you for listening, folks. It's much appreciated. Until next time, I'm Brett.
And I'm Elana.
Keep it geeky.
Hey, thanks for watching the previous video from Graphic Policy Television. Just by watching, you help support our site. Thank you so much. Now, if you're watching these videos, you probably care about geeky things like movies, television, comic books, toys, games, video games, you name it. You can go and subscribe right now to our YouTube channel to stay in touch and catch all the new videos, or check out our website at graphicpolicy.com. There's a nice link on this end of the video. But as always, thank you for watching. Keep on rocking and keep it geeky.